Welcome to the ERP Seal podcast. My name is Tim Rodman. We are live today on Friday, July 31st, 2026, and this is episode number 181. You can see that up on the screen there. You can find related links for today's episode at erpseal.com/episode 181. And we've got Jim Wrubel on. Is that how you pronounce your last name? Did I get that right?
Russian money, Wrubel. No,
Wrubel.
yes,
Okay,
Wrubel, yes.
Russian money. We got Jim Wrubel on. And Jim, you come from the marketing side of things, but I thought there's still a lot of relevant things that you're working on for people in the ERP space. So thanks for taking the time to come on today. And before I give you a chance to introduce yourself, we connected just on a LinkedIn post. It was Anya who had tagged you. I'll put a picture of Anya up on the screen there. There's Anya's LinkedIn profile. She had tagged you related to some comment that I had made, and was like, hey, Jim's a good person who knows how this stuff works. And so super like digital lightweight connection there, and you were willing to take the time to come on, and so I really appreciate it. And I always like asking guests, maybe you could just give us your background story, where you grew up, where you went to school. And in your case, normally I ask people how they got into ERP, but in your case, I guess how you got into whatever it is you're doing now. You can tell us about that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thanks. So I grew up in Detroit, went to school in Ann Arbor. So Columbus person, we have to immediately do kind of the rivalry stuff there. But I immediately left the region, did the whole stick and bindle on me, and headed out to Boston, Massachusetts, right out of college. Got jobs in advertising, ad agencies, Hill Holiday for a little while, Arnold Worldwide, doing campaigns for large companies. I built the booking engine for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines back in the day. So if you ever booked a cruise through that, some of that code probably still lives around. And then I got into technology during the .com boom, the original one in 2000, because we kept losing developers who were getting 50% pay raises every 6 months for just changing companies. And I was like, wow, that seems like a pretty cool thing. How do I get that 50% pay raise every 6 months? So taught myself tech, taught myself programming, transitioned into that, got married and moved to Pittsburgh, and then bounced through a number of fields. Mentioned this earlier. Worked with the federal government for a while doing cybersecurity education. I was the CTO of a ed tech company that was lucky enough to exit a little while ago. And then about 10 years ago, I got into what was called machine learning, which now is called artificial intelligence because it, I guess, graduated, right? They gotta give it a fancier title. And I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I started a company about 3 years ago, focusing on marketing, but pivoted into AI visibility, which is how you determine when your company's mentioned in ChatGPT and Claude and Copilot and things like that. When I was talking to a prospect, and you always ask them oh, so how did you find me? I was doing a demo on Zoom, and he said ChatGPT, and I said, you're lying. And it just sort of blurted out. I definitely do not accuse a prospect of lying. Never a good way. Lost the sale immediately. Did not go well. But that got me down a rabbit hole of how does that actually happen? How does a human being find a company to select through AI? We know how it works through Google. We obviously know how it works through other channels and things like that. So my current company, Spyglasses, was kind of born out of that process. We help companies figure out when you are showing up in ChatGPT for what kinds of questions, and then how do you get mentioned and recommended more often.
Very interesting. I want to ask you a lot more about that part, but you did mention something I want to ask you about just related to the .com boom. I'm curious, just having gone through that, what's your take on the current state? It feels to me very similar, mainly from a stock market and company valuation standpoint. It just seems like they're throwing too much money at this, even though it is transformative tech. You think about .com boom, it didn't go away. everyone has a
Yeah.
website now. You have to have a website to exist. So it was a real
Yep.
thing, but it was overvalued. Do you feel kind of similar right now?
Yeah, I don't think it's as similar. The current situation isn't as similar to the original dot-com boom, which was just irrational exuberance. This one's a little bit closer to like the 2008 crisis, where there was a lot of like shady things where you were manufacturing money based on contracts that were just passing things around. That's, if I worry about anything, there's a graphic out there that there's like $1.5 trillion that is exists only in mutual contracts between about 7 firms,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's not real. It's not on anyone's balance sheet. And that stuff never goes well, right? It
Yeah. Yeah.
never goes well. So
No,
I
I
do
just I
worry a
always
little
like
bit
hearing
about
people's
that.
stuff
Yeah.
on that. Yeah, no, I'm definitely worried about them going public. You already got SpaceX/X AI going public, and then all our retirement portfolios are going to buy it, right? So yeah, that's
Yep.
where I'm a little,
Yep.
I'm a little concerned there.
Yep. 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 It takes us all down with it. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so you got into this, how you got discovered stuff, and so I want to talk about it from the marketing side first because that's what you do. But then at some point, I want to pivot to the ERP side, and this is why I
Yeah.
wanted to have you on because I think it's the same challenge, whether you're trying to get discovered publicly or whether you're trying to get something private discovered, and that's why I titled this "Surfacing the Right Info at the Right Time." I think it's a similar challenge. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, let's talk on the public side of it. So, you were amazed that someone found you via ChatGPT, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
tell us more. Like, how did that evolve into what you're doing now?
Well, so it was we're a small business. Every lead was like, I don't know. Do you remember? Have you seen the original Ghostbusters? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
The movie. So they get a phone call and they like ring a bell, like we got one. Like that.
Okay. Okay.
That
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
experience was like every time we had a demo, it was chaos, right? Like everyone's like places everyone, opening night at the theater kind of thing. And I was shocked when he said that because like I watched my analytics like a hawk. Is a constant browser tab. Like I'm in there, I'm watching. Your business is small when you're looking at the real time view frequently, like seeing like how many individual people are on your website. And so the idea that someone came in and found me and like booked a demo and all that stuff, and it didn't show my analytics was like very interesting. Okay, so that's when your curiosity gets in the better of you, and like, how come this person made it all the way to a Zoom call and missed every other analytics trigger, like completely invisible until they showed up? And that got me to like what I discovered at the time was kind of the underlying thing that incited Spyglass's development was when ChatGPT, and you've probably if you've used this or anyone
Can I ask
else,
real
and
quick,
you,
when
yeah.
was that you had
Oh,
that?
that
You must be
was
wanting to experience.
February of 2024.
Okay, so that makes sense because I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
by that now or even in the past year. But
Yes.
okay, all right,
Yes.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. 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 So at the time it was revolution. Now it's there's a whole industry with $1 billion companies that that just do this kind of stuff. But at the time it was pretty unique. But so if you've used ChatGPT and it does the little, you ask it a question, it does the little like searching the web thing, and it pulls up sources in real time and it gives you an answer, and it's got little citation links, little links to the articles that it uses as a reference to give you the information back. When it's actually doing those in real time, it goes and it fetches that page, summarizes the information to give you the response. And the difference is it doesn't use JavaScript. So it needs to be fast. It just needs the text of the page. It needs to be fast. So it doesn't visit your page like a human. And Google Analytics expects that it's a human visitor that has
Uh,
JavaScript enabled. So Google Analytics triggers only when JavaScript is available. So ChatGPT never shows up. So wrote a little plugin, put it on our own site. Suddenly, like, oh, it's like hundreds a day of we're being cited hundreds of times a day, and ChatGPT Never even knew it. Like a whole slice of your analytics absolutely missing.
Interesting. Okay.
That was a fascinating discovery, and just going to snowball from there.
So I'm gonna pester with technical questions, but
Yeah.
you be like, that's secret sauce, and no problem. I'll just keep asking. And
Yeah.
so I definitely heard people talking about this. Like, there's a whole thought now, even on buying stuff, that there's essentially an agent economy where agents have a budget of what they can spend and they just go buy stuff. And so there's this whole thought of, there's an entity that's not even a human, that's not only interacting with web pages, but even going through the whole checkout process. What's the fundamental difference? So, like, are they even consuming HTML, or what protocol do they ask for when they're asking for information?
This is evolving kind of in real time. State of the art right now is they're just firing up a browser, and you give it a request, and it will fire up a real instance of probably Google Chrome at this point, and go try to drive the web and find the right
That's
product
how it's
for
doing
you.
it right now.
Yeah, there are a couple of specific channels, like Shopify has built a side door through specifically to ChatGPT, where ChatGPT has built into it how to navigate a Shopify site and purchase from it.
I've heard about that. Okay.
So there are specific, like, one LLM to one platform side doors, but for the generic use case, it's just fire up a browser, go to this URL, parse the things, click on it like a human.
Wow. So even for just getting information, not forget about the buying stuff.
No, for just information retrieval, totally different. No browser involved.
Yeah, so it makes sense on the checkout part that, and they're coming up with a protocol for how to buy stuff, not firing up the browser. But what about just getting information? So the reason why Google Analytics wasn't picking up that someone was hitting your site had to do with the JavaScript. Then what was the answer?
Yeah, so it uses a special bot, basically, that its only job is to so I guess this is the point where one of my favorite phrases is, the dirty secret of AI is that it's just a thin layer on top of search. So if you ask for a question like that, says, oh, I'm going to need to get up-to-date information from the web. What it's actually doing is one or more traditional web searches, picking one or more links from the list of returned links, reading it, and then summarizing it and giving the answer. There's no magic. It's not an oracle. It is literally just clicking Google links so you don't have to.
That makes total sense. So Google SEO is not dead. It's just
it's still the foundation
instead of a human.
Yep. There are we could people argue about the percentage, but roughly 70% of SEO stuff is still the same. There are now different algorithms, the O in optimization. There are now different optimization techniques for bots versus humans, but the general foundations is exactly the same.
Yeah, so the way they're getting it is still a Google search and picking the top 3 or whatever off the list, but maybe the specific search that they would write might be different than a human, and that's why it's a little bit different.
It is, yes. There's the technical terms here are called fan out queries. So you write a prompt, like you type something in there, like, hey, I need wireless headphones for my my daughter or something like this. It will say, it will run a search for wireless headphones reviews, budget-friendly wireless headphones, wireless headphones that are over the ear, wireless headphones with noise cancellation. Like, it runs 4 of these, assembles all of that data back, and then it does a process called re-ranking, which is like the first result for each of these may not be the best result for them. So it looks at the let's call it the metadata, for lack of a better word, re-ranks it and says, like, oh, okay, out of these 40 candidates, these 5 are worthy of further inspection. And then it goes and fetches the entire page from those 5, pulls individual chunks out of those 5, figures out what's the best combination of stuff, and then gives you an answer.
That's fast. I had no idea that's how it worked. That really makes it seem, yeah, I like your way
Yeah,
of describing it. The dirty
it's
secret. It's not
yes,
as crazy
it's
as I thought
yeah,
it was.
yes. People assume that it's like a mystical oracle on a mountain, right? You go and you're like, hey,
Right.
my bathroom has stubborn stains. I need how can I get rid of these things? And it consults its knowledge of like bathroom cleaning supplies. Like, here you go. Nah, it's just searching the web. It's
So interesting. And then that relates to previous concerns about the valuation of said companies. Yeah.
yes, yes. So the other, like, you've probably been around these things enough to know that the concept of hallucination is a problem with AI. Like, it
Sure.
will make things up, it will confidently tell you wrong facts and things like that. AI really can't be anything more than a search engine because you need accurate information. Like, if it used its training data for too much stuff, you would get weird results, you'd get out of date results.
Sure.
It needs to have fresh information, and the only place that exists is on the web.
And so if I'm in ChatGPT specifically and I ask it to recommend Bluetooth headphones or something like that for me,
Yep.
is there a way for me to run what I would call a trace or something like that, where I can see what queries it ran, what Google's stuff
Yes.
it ran?
Yep. Yep.
Ah,
It's a weird architectural decision on their part, but all of the underlying searches, not all the results, but like what it searches for, the queries that it used, are all in your browser. So if you know how to open your browser console and like dig in, you can get all that information.
oh, so whatever, like I'm on a Windows machine, would it be whatever default browser the OS has set up, or does ChatGPT have its own like default browser setting so I know which
No,
browser to go
just
look in?
yeah. So if you're using it in Chrome or Firefox or whatever, and you just pull up the little network inspector panel, like there's a little setting you can do.
Yeah.
You can just watch the network traffic, and all of the stuff it's doing in the background is all showing up for you. So
Oh,
there are
okay.
plugins for Chrome. I don't have it handy here, but I'm sure we can throw it up in your show notes or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I'll do
there's
it.
a ChatGPT fan outs capture plugin for Chrome, and it's totally free. It's private and local to you. It only runs during ChatGPT chat. So if you're interested in seeing what it's actually searching for in the background, you just put the plugin in. Doesn't send any data anywhere. It's all local again, completely private. But it will give you the structured output, what it searched for, the platforms it searched, all that kind of stuff.
I'm gonna see if I can just find it here on the fly, because there's
Yeah.
probably, see if you recognize it when I find one. Let's see. Oh, here, yeah, you'll probably find it faster than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Because there's probably a ton of them, right? Like, yeah, I was curious if there's one that really resonates with you. I see
Yeah.
fan out lens. I see Chat
Yeah, there's a
GPT
few
query
of them.
fan out tool.
That's the one you want, ChatGPT query fan out tool there.
It's got like a green background on it.
Yeah, yeah, several of them do. They all basically work the same. This one of the upsides of AI is that if you can just ask it like, "Hey, can you make me a plugin that captures these things?" It's got enough prior art to be able to just go do it. So there's a lot of them
Yeah.
that are out there.
And then I totally know. I was just curious. You're one
Yeah.
that you're like, oh, that's one I've used, but I know this could change next week. That's how fast. So
Yes. Yes.
we'd be like,
Yep.
oh, I'm using a different one now. But I was just
Yeah,
curious.
they're all pretty good.
Well,
And
that's
Lisa,
interesting.
this is interesting. Like, if you are trying to build, your company's visibility on the web, this is important to know, because
Yeah.
if you are not in the search results for these particular very specific queries, there's zero chance of you getting a mention.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. I'm gonna tinker
it's
with that. Yeah, I didn't realize though. Basically, there's a couple of arts then that I'm starting to realize. One is the art of learning what you prompt ChatGPT with, learning what it fans out into, which
yep.
could be Wait, what's your experience? Is like 10 to 20 different Google searches that it does
Um,
in the back end, or
it de- it
hundreds, or?
depends. It depends on the tier of platform you're on. So if you're on the free ChatGPT incognito window, might be
Okay.
one or two. But if
Okay.
you click the little like deep thinking button or those kind of things, or you're on one of the higher models, it could very well be 20 to 40.
Interesting. Okay. So it depends on the
And
model. All
for
right, that makes sense. Yeah, so I'll tinker with that. So that's part of the art. And then yeah, that brings up a whole nother question. Like, do you think most of your prospects are using the light version versus the deep version? Yeah, that
yes,
gets
yep,
really
yep,
complicated, but there's an art there between how does prompt get turned into queries that I care about.
yep.
Um, and then, so yeah, starting with that part, how do you, I think part of what your business is like consulting with companies to help them with that, or yeah, how do you approach
Mhm.
that at Spyglasses?
Yes, yeah, we always start when we think about building AI visibility, there's two levers you can pull as a company. One of them is just knowing these very, very esoteric queries that it's running underneath. They aren't written like a human would write. Sometimes they are 8 to 10 words long, but you need to understand where you are in those search results. So building content that semantically matches those queries is one of two ways that you can build visibility. The other is just third-party sites as well, since you could be mentioned by ChatGPT from a Reddit post, from a third-party listicle, from ERP blog. This is one of those things that comes up, like your ERP
Anya's site.
consultancy
Yep.
could
Anya's site. Yeah.
absolutely be mentioned. A lot of those will have reviews and ratings and compares head-to-head comparisons and things like that. So if you're asking about features, like if you are a company is like, hey, we actually need an ERP now, and you're like, what's the best one for me? It's going to use a lot of those third-party sources as its kind of primary answers back to the person. So knowing the sources that it's likely to pull and being in those and being well mentioned and positively reviewed is the other big lever you can pull.
Interesting, which is not new stuff. And since you mentioned it, I'll put it up on the screen and we'll get it in the transcript. Let's put it out into the ether for all the creepy crawly AI bots and stuff. But it's erpsoftwareblog.com. That's Anya's site, and that's how you connected with Anya, I think, is working with
That's
that.
right. Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me about, so what's interesting to me about this one, I didn't realize this essentially sits on top of the classic SEO foundation. That's really cool to know, because now it's not this completely crazy new thing. And you said people
Right.
argue about the percentages. Maybe it's 70% of it's still the same or whatever. But even if it's just like 50% or 40%, that's way higher than I thought. I thought it
Yeah.
was 0%
Yep.
of it is the same. So that's really
Yep.
cool. Then I know, so if we kind of go back in time a little bit and take off the AI hat for a moment, I remember this was like several years back where Google made a big change where it used to be that kind of any site was treated somewhat equally. And I might correct me if I'm describing this wrong. And
Yeah.
then they started sort of weighting bigger sites more heavily. And that's kind of when Reddit blew up as being a source. Did that actually happen? Is that real?
Google has it's baked into their original algorithm that sites that have links to them are considered more authoritative. So if you're a big site that other people say, oh, you wanted an answer on bathroom cleaners, well, this is where you go. So if I've got a link on my site that's like, oh, best bathroom cleaners, like that's the place. Google sees that relationship and encodes that in its algorithms so that the site that's receiving people saying, this is where you want to go for specific things. There's a formula for it called domain rank, page rank, that kind of thing. And it's kind of baked into their algorithm. So one of the factors that gets you to a top position in SEO is this rank of your page. And your second question about Reddit is a little bit different. Reddit actually just licensed their content. Like it's got unfiltered people sharing opinions freely, very, very valuable stuff. Google paid them about $60 million for access to the platform. And that's why Reddit content is in there.
So it really was specific to Reddit. It wasn't
Yes. Yep.
an overall
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah, there are definitely content licensing deals in play here in a variety of ways. One of the things that is very, very interesting to us and to anyone in this industry is a lot of the biggest publishers, specifically on news, but it could be anything, actively block their content from being used in AI.
Mm-hmm.
So if if you're a small startup or something or any company and you get a mention in the New York Times, that's pop the champagne moment, right? Like, look at us, we're in the business section of the New York Times, call your mom, tell, like, hey, everything, all good, but AI won't ever see it. And so it does nothing for you in an AI discovery perspective because New York Times blocks citations of their content. So
whereas the I don't know, middle-aged person still living in their parents' basement who spends way too much time online, if they're talking about you on Reddit, then that's actually more valuable to you from an AI perspective.
100%. Yes. One random comment from an anonymous profile on Reddit that says, I use this particular piece of software. I use StreamYard. I love it. It's super elegant, can get picked up and can be the foundation of your recommendations in AI. Whereas your full page feature in the business section doesn't even show up.
That's so interesting. So I brought up Reddit specifically because I've really struggled with Reddit personally. So like,
Same.
I know it has a big impact on it. And now it's even more so because I didn't realize going into this that it's mostly the same foundation. Like, how do you recommend companies get involved in Reddit? Because I like try to get involved in Reddit and it's like, it's so noisy and there's ads and it's so like, I can't even follow the thread. It's getting interrupted with random stuff all the time. How do you recommend people get involved with Reddit? Like if they want to be visible on there and participating, how do they get some kind of traction without just trying it and bouncing off like I've done several times?
Yeah. So if this is important, you have to dedicate some time to it, right? It's not a casual strategy. You probably need a person, maybe not a full-time job, but it is like they're the Reddit person in your company. Couple of things. Reddit has the concept of karma. So when other people find your contributions valuable, they can upvote you. They can reward you with Reddit Gold, and also there's all sorts of like reward system in Reddit. You won't be able to contribute to specific communities until you have a certain amount of karma on your account. So coming into it as a Reddit user is one of the best ways to actually be a valuable Reddit contributor. So even if you hang out in a couple of like cooking subreddits and you just get a bunch of your content up, like that builds your account up as a reputable content. Now you can go into ERP forums and things and contribute. Some of them will have like floors where they won't even allow you to post if you don't have a certain amount of karma. So
there's no such thing as cooking karma and ERP karma. There's just Reddit karma.
Just Reddit karma.
Like a common currency. Okay.
Good. Yes. Good everywhere. So, which isn't bad, right? It rewards people who are rewarded by other people. There are ways to game it. There's ways to game any metric, any system, of course. But in terms of like how you can contribute, this is the only way that I have found that has been helpful. You have some expertise. Let's assume, you as an individual have some expertise. You want to contribute to a conversation that's out there. Start off with, I full disclosure, this is my role. I work in this company. We're in this space. And then just answer the question. No promotion. A lot of them have no, prohibitions on like including outside links, but say who you are, who you work for, why your position, why you are a source of authority when you say something, and then genuinely try to be helpful. Answer their question, contribute what you know. If you have original data, that's always very helpful. Our database shows we do the, I've done this a little bit of time. We're not a big Reddit shop, but we've definitely dabbled in there. But since we track a bunch of cited sources and things like that, we have a lot of first party data that can be valuable. So we might say like, oh yeah, we see about 1.5% of our sources are from LinkedIn. So if you're thinking about LinkedIn as a strategy, consider that. Hopefully you get more upvotes, more karma, more responses, more engagement. You can put links to your company if you are worried about like trying to get leads and things like it. Put your links into your profile. If people who are interested will find you, they will DM you. We've had a handful of signups and clients arise out of it. It's certainly not impossible to do, but it is its own strategy. And like LinkedIn, it is also overflowing with AI slop.
Yeah. Okay. I think, it's part of why it's so noisy. But what I think that is helpful, like the karma concept, didn't know about that. And then also you're reminding me of something I have on my wall here. Where was it? Oh yeah. So it was the Gary Vaynerchuk list of like 15 things. And his number one is good intent wins. The internet will tell all, so be clear on who you want to be to the world. And that's kind of what I hear you saying there on Reddit as well.
Yeah. Never a bad, just put good in the world. Reddit, more than most places, rewards that. It is a problematic community in a lot of ways, but it is also unique in that you really do get peers anonymously asking questions, trying to help each other. Actually pretty valuable.
And okay, so I don't want to, Reddit sounds like a rabbit hole we could spend a couple hours on, and we don't have a couple hours. So do you have any like a good book recommendation or some kind of source on like, hey, how do I get more into this?
Boy, not in Reddit. So kind of what I talked about is probably the best way to do it. Try to get an account with
ChatGPT. Maybe just pester ChatGPT with, hey, can you come up with a way for me to learn how to interact with Reddit in a good way?
So I actually think that might not be the best way to go because it is humans interacting with humans mostly, right? You'll know the AI comments, you can kind of ignore those. Honestly, like it comes down to what is your goal going in? Is your goal really to just find questions and be helpful? That's great. Then just do that, right? And that process will compound over time. Our company is still mentioned in a specific set of ChatGPT prompts based on a comment I made over a year ago in one particular post. So like you never know when it's going to kind of come across. The other thing is, and I don't know how to do the magic, like put a URL on the bottom of the thing just because I haven't used StreamYard.
Drop it in the private chat. I don't think it lets you do it. I have to do it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Sifton is a social listening tool that I've used in the past. What you do is you set up keywords and plug it into Reddit. And so there are keywords in your industry. Like for us, it's answer engine optimization, AI SEO, those kind of like keywords. It will alert you or drop it into a chat like a Teams or a Slack or something like this. And it will give you a direct link to the Reddit thread where people are talking about it.
That I like, because I think my biggest problem with Reddit is the UI itself. So this essentially becomes your Reddit UI for you.
Yeah.
I like
this
that.
is like, oh, and it gives you like a little chunk of the conversation. You click it, you go right into it. If this is interesting, like if you feel like you can actually add value to it, drop right in with a comment. Hey, this is who I am. This is why I'm commenting. And here's my perspective, why I think this is a good piece of advice, answer to your question, whatever it is. That's it.
Got it.
Just keep doing that.
I'll check that out. All right. I'm gonna pull myself out of the Reddit black hole.
It's not easy.
All right. So we talked about like the top part of you put something in the prompt and it just fans out to a bunch of queries. Then talk to me about the website part. So if we go traditional website, if someone's got a regular website, yours wasn't picking it up because of JavaScript, how did you solve that problem with as much detail as you can tell us without giving away the secret sauce?
So what I did is, every website, like underneath the analytics and things, every request to your website is logged somewhere. So if you have access to the logs of your website, you can try and go back and say, okay, so what was that request? So that's kind of where I went. At the time we were such a small company, I mentioned, like watching Google Analytics in real time, that like I could actually just go through the last 30 minutes of my web logs by hand, just scroll through them until I found the magic tag, which is ChatGPT user. So ChatGPT sends a specific name on every request that is for a citation. And if you just look for hits for that particular phrase in your logs, every one of those is a citation. We built a dashboard around it and aggregate and all that, but like you don't need that. If you just have access to the logs and a log parsing tool, just go through it, index it, and it will show you every time your content that will be connected to the individual page that was used as the citation. And that's
it's not
where
baked into the URL with some like source string. It's some like agent user or some, or like
the user
a
agent,
web browser. Like there's ways that
Yes.
Google Analytics knows what web browser hit it, whether it was phone or mobile. It's one of those types of things.
That's
Attributes.
exactly right. Yeah. It tags itself as ChatGPT user. Almost every major AI uses this kind of like self-identification, which means you can block it. You can put out a proactive policy that says, hey, we actually don't accept requests from these things. And OpenAI, Claude, they will respect that for the most part. So this is a way to give you a little bit of control over how your content is used, or even whether it's used. And some people do take advantage of that. The only one that does not behave at all, this may not be surprising, is Grok.
Yeah, I would have guessed
does not identify itself, actively tries to be stealthy and avoid all of these type of detections. That is its, let's call it, competitive differentiation.
That's so interesting. Okay, so so you can know when it hits your page, and then when it's running searches, that's probably just regular Google Search Console then at that point. Because so here's where this is so fascinating. Like I thought this AI EO or AEO, whatever it's being called, like had its own thing, but it's just contributing to the same Google search rankings that have been going on for a long time, right?
Yes, it does get a little bit. So you will see these if you have access to a Google Search Console for a domain. Don't look at the top ones. Go like page all the way down to like the bottom like 50 queries, and the further you go down in your console, the more long and bizarre they will be. Those long, bizarre ones are fan out queries that are showing up in your logs.
And so you don't have like a column that tells you in the same way that you have ChatGPT user as an attribute. You just sort of can tell by the way the query was constructed.
We're making assumptions. I've personally seen enough fan out queries to be like, yep, that's one. Google has just in the last month added in some generative AI features to it. There's now a section that gives you impressions in AI overviews. It's very, very basic. The interesting thing is, for those of you again who have access to a website, get Bing visibility tool. The Bing webmaster tools. Their dashboard, their Google Search Console equivalent, I think is called Bing Webmaster Tools. It's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
they actually give you the specific fan out queries for which you rank exactly. Like, it's the information every marketer would want out of this new channel. It's exactly what they would want. Bing gives it to you. The only problem is it's Bing,
Right. No,
which
yeah.
is
Who
what, yeah,
uses
it's like
Bing, right?
6, yeah, it's like 6% of the market. Yeah. So, but you can, and it's only for searches in Copilot and Bing and stuff like that. It can still be helpful, right? Even 6% of, for a decent sized site, even, Bing stuff is
Sure.
still relatively valuable, but that's that. So yes, we have this weird, like, Google has all of the data and gives you none of it. Bing has no traffic and gives you everything you'd ever want. You're left with nothing.
But you're not going to have a way of knowing the original prompt. You're just going to
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
the individual fan out, and you probably don't even know that these 10 fan out queries were all done at the same time. I mean, you could maybe
True.
look at
Yeah.
it based on, because you don't have the detail log level to know these happen
No.
within seconds of each other. Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
not able to reverse engineer the original prompt, probably, right?
No. There are companies in our space that claim to have search volume for prompts. They are lying. They are unethical. What they're actually doing is one of two things. One, they are either using, Google has that people also ask box that shows up sometimes. It gives you like related queries. So what they're doing there is they're using traditional search volume for keywords and building fake prompts out of that and assuming that there's an equivalent. So they're basically just making data up. The other one, which is extremely shady, is there are a number of companies in our space, many of them are publicly traded, that use free VPN. So there's a whole bunch of like free VPNs, browser plugins, and things like that are supposed to give you like cash back for browsing or coupons and things like this.
Oh, yeah.
What they do is they silently record all of your network traffic. And one of the huge sources of things they're doing is they will silently record all of your interactions with AI. And they sell that to companies who make visibility, who can mine the logs to get like actual user prompts and things like that. Those people did consent, technically by clicking the little thing, they did consent to their data being used. They definitely didn't know that their private ChatGPT chats were going to be entirely sent to third-party companies. So already a problem. The other thing that comes up, and this is probably for your audience, in the ERP side, is do people who use private VPNs and it's like, is that representative of your prospects? And so if you're basing decisions on a company who's showing you your AI visibility based on a bunch of people who use private VPNs, you might be making your decision based on invalid audience.
Makes sense, right? And similar to the Bing concept, right? It's like,
yes,
do I even care about Bing users? Yeah.
Exact same problem.
So let's pivot then to the ERP side of things. So, it seems like what you're experiencing is when people are asking, let's just keep with ChatGPT, but it could be Gemini, whatever. Let's stick with ChatGPT. But when people are asking ChatGPT stuff, you're finding, and I've noticed this myself, just anecdotally, it's not answering much from its training. It's pretty consistently performing a web search, at least for me. And it could be because I'm typically using high intelligence mode, just because I'm paying for it. And so it really does come down to those searches. Now, if we step out of the vast internet / Reddit of data, and we then pare this down to a company's data, and it could be policies and procedures, it could be their internal wiki. And I think, a lot of companies right now are just trying to figure out how to take all their Word documents and turn them into Markdown, whatever it is. But if you get it into that best format, then how do companies build stuff that allows them to essentially do a private Google search? Do you know how people are doing that?
So, I mean, this is going to seem like we planned this like natural transition here, and we definitely didn't, but it's going to seem like it. The mechanism that ChatGPT uses to search the entire web all those fan out queries and stuff is built into a body of practice in software engineering called retrieval augmented generation, RAG, RAG. And that process is the exact same process built into a lot of private knowledge base LLMs, things that sit over data lakes and things like that. It is the exact same thing. So you have a lightweight language model that really just serves as a way to say, okay, understand the user's intent, decide what types of searches and what types of information from the underlying data source are going to be helpful, run the searches, assemble it back to the user. It's the exact same thing ChatGPT is doing for us on a global scale with your private data. Exact same techniques. There are a lot of companies that do this, like all of the foundations, ChatGPT and Gemini, all of that web search stuff is actually all just implemented at scale from people whose original use case was, man, I got a lot of Word docs and I can't search through them all.
Sure.
So exact same technique.
Yep. That makes sense. And I guess what was good news for me on the marketing side, where, hey, 70% or whatever is the same, now becomes bad news for me on the private side. Because what I've been hoping is I keep thinking of ChatGPT as being, hey, I finally have a private Google search for my private data, but I actually don't. I just have an intent tool that still needs a search tool. And so I still need a good search tool, which can get really expensive to get one on private data. Is that, do you have any good solution for that?
No, so I don't. Thankfully, this a protocol called Model Context Protocol that came out, which basically defines how an LLM can use data sources. Basically, it's how does it find it? Tells it how to find information, what types of information this has. You can get an MCP endpoint over a Google Drive, a SharePoint, a BI tool, any of those things. You just plug those data sources in, and the orchestration layer, the LLM in the front of it, says, oh, let me look at the tools I have access to try to understand what the user is asking for, where the most likely data is. If it needs it, it will use MCP to call whatever tool is necessary. So if it's a BI system or an ERP system, it might use their public API, which is documented, and it will construct the queries for you, get the structured data back, turn it into something you want. If it's a Google Drive or a SharePoint, it will do kind of the same thing, but it might use like SMB protocol or something else to pull that data back and forth. So it's a way of kind of abstracting it. So you don't need the one unified search tool. You just tell it, this is all the universe of data that exists that might help you. The LLM just figures out which one to use.
Yeah, and I guess that's where, for me, it's bad news, because I kept thinking of ChatGPT as being another tool on the tool layer, but it's actually not. It's sitting above, and so I'm still constrained by the tools that I have, and I totally get that. Like an MCP server is just gonna give the LLM a way to access the tool, but it's still then constrained by what the tool can do. It's going to search my documents with whatever that search already was. ChatGPT doesn't enhance that. Or if it's structured data, what I'm hearing, I don't know if this is true, but what I'm hearing is it's then just writing a SQL query. I always had the ability to do that. So it's not really a new search mechanism. Yeah, it's just a new intent mechanism. Whereas, like, I guess I was hoping that maybe it sort of is there's a way to train your own LLM. Maybe, I don't know if people are going that way, on a vast body of your private knowledge.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I making sense? I'm looking for good news here on private data. I'm not hearing it yet.
there definitely is a way to do that. Yes, you can either train your own LLM on your internal data set. That is relatively expensive and time consuming, because it means someone's got to basically feed in and label and annotate the type of data so that it understands what you're doing. You can also what's called fine tune. So you can take an LLM and you can say, here's 10,000 pieces of data that are specific to us. So when someone asks you a question, this layer should be kind of like your first pass, right? Like if this can't answer your question, now go to your more general knowledge, but this is where you kind of come back from.
In that FAQ style, like Reddit style of question answer. That's the general
No,
thinking there.
it doesn't even have to be. It might be a document. Like the process of doing this really involves a lot of annotation. So you kind of have to tell the model, like, this is what this document represents. This part of it is useful for this. This part of it's useful for this. Because it might be contracts, right? It might be orders. So you got to tell it the context around this stuff.
Which sounds a little bit like an MCP thinking. Would you agree?
Yes, except it's done up front. And what it does is it gives you like a customized version of ChatGPT for your environment.
Okay.
So it's fine-tuned, right? It's
still
the base technology that's under the hood, but now it's got this layer that makes it kind of all of these tools are to some extent probability engines, right? Like you ask it a question and it decides, which are the handful of best options for you, and it picks them. They're weighted, so it's going to pick the most common one, but sometimes it picks a very, unusual one. So a fine tuning just basically turns it so that it's more likely to answer from whatever you've provided than its default data set.
Okay.
So it makes it a little bit custom, like teaching it your family history and then asking about, family related things like that.
Okay. And then that's where it
works.
Sort of sounds similar to MCP to me, in that if you just put a bunch more things in the tool level, then that's where you could sort of have better control over how it's going to search or what it's going to go grab. It sort of sounds similar to that, but yeah, not the same.
The big challenge with fine-tuning in an organization is fine-tuning is a moment in time process. So you fine-tune it on this set of data. Businesses are living, things change. What new stuff generated after the fact won't be included in the fine-tune. You have to redo that. That's why many companies, just out of expediency, have changed to this retrieval augmented generation, where that underlying data set is changing all the time, right? New orders come in, new processes, new standard operating procedures are layered in. They change the code. If you just tell the model, like, go there and use the API interface that's in there and give me the data, you don't have to do anything, right? That you literally just plug the two things together, and AI is smart enough to figure it out. So that's why it's kind of an alluring thing, because it's literally just plug your data sources in and you're done. Like, it's live.
Gotcha. Okay.
The hard part is security on all that, because an MCP can be a side door into admin rights to any tool that you give it access to if you don't do things right.
Sure.
So that's the big.
That's the difference between a prototype and production grade, right? Security is a huge part of that. Yeah. What about semantic models? So I've heard a lot of people talking about it. This feels very similar to me to I've done a lot with business intelligence tools, and there's a concept of having a semantic model in there. What are your thoughts on that being important or not important for private data?
So it's not necessarily that it has anything to do with private data. What semantic model is really doing is one of the biggest breakthroughs in this entire industry is the idea that we could express language, words, and things like this in mathematical notation. There's a
quick
book.
Time check, by the way. Do you have a hard stop at the top of the hour, or do you have?
I don't know.
After? Could you go like just a few minutes over? Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I'm going to find this article here. This one is definitely for anyone who kind of wants to understand this, is going to do a much better job than I ever would of explaining how this works. But what the researchers discovered was you can essentially turn words into vector notation. So mathematical notation, a series of ones and zeros. And if you do it in the right way, you can encode meaning into the vectors from the words. So the word, once you do all the processing here, the word Paris becomes a vector. The word France becomes a vector. The word Berlin becomes a vector. The word Germany becomes a vector. So you can now do math on them. You can actually say Paris and France, and then say Germany, and then multiply it by France and get or Berlin, and then get Germany. So that is one of the things. All of this stuff is encoding. This is why these massive data centers, it's basically just doing a bunch of vector math. So one technique for making your content retrievable and indexable and things is to vector encode it, semantic encoding, that kind of thing, in a way that it can understand not just like string, like keyword matches, right? This doesn't have the same set of keywords, but it might use that keywords that you're looking for in a different way. It might use synonyms for them. If it's done in vector notation, the LLM can understand the synonyms and say, oh, this is actually still relevant, even though it doesn't use the exact keywords that I'm looking for. It's the same intent. And that's a magic part of it. That's what helps all the fan out queries. That's the one thing that's different about optimization in AI versus traditional SEO, is those were traditionally like keyword based. Right now you're optimizing for semantic intent. So you don't have to stuff keywords into your articles anymore that match. You just have to convey the same intent, and the AI will figure it out.
Is that similar to why hashtags have kind of gone away because of that? Like,
yeah, to a large extent, yes. Especially on LinkedIn, deprecated them actually for a whole month and then brought them back because people were angry. They freely admit that it's like a comfort blanket, right? They don't work anymore. They don't do anything. But if you want to put them in there, knock yourself out, right?
Yeah. But in the sense, that's good news, because it's like, coming back to the good intent win. If you're a company that wants to be found, if you're just putting out good intent, quality content, you don't have to, in a sense, know the game as well, maybe, because the AI is better at finding good stuff. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. You don't have to write for the algorithm anymore. You write for the intent. And if you have the best data, the original data, there are definitely techniques for structuring it and things like that. But if you just have the right content, right, you can definitely appear, because AI is really good at matching intent when wording is different. The average length of the average Google search is 4 words long. That's been pretty stable for a while. Yeah, like on average, right? So pretty long tail. The average prompt is 22 words. So there's no way that you're going to be able to this is why other than the fact that it's private, this is why you can't have Google Search Console for ChatGPT, because it would be infinity long, right? Like capturing every permutation of how someone could express something is impossible.
That's interesting. Wow. Well, I could probably pester you with questions for another couple hours. I'm going to respect your time, though. Maybe we could round that off with, anyways, you're super knowledgeable. I really appreciate you coming on, just taking the time to demystify a lot of things. And I got a lot to noodle on. Usually after an episode, I go take a walk and just noodle on the conversation.
But same.
Maybe we could round it off with you've really demystified a lot of stuff, and it's like good intent wins, and you can even inspect whether ChatGPT is hitting your website and stuff. Maybe come back to what you're doing at Spyglasses. Is there a secret sauce? What do you offer? Why would someone be like, hey, I don't want to, why do they plug in and use your product?
Yeah, so and like there's a lot of players in the AI visibility space. We're one of them. Where we focus, it's a little bit different. Is that retrieval augmented generation? Like what happened? The user types in the prompt. We can't control for the variability of the prompt. People will talk all sorts of stuff, but AI is good at distilling the intent and the meaning, and then doing those fan out queries to get the research and stuff. It turns out the even though people type a bunch of random things in the prompt, so you can't control for that. The process from fan out query, which pages are grabbed, how AI decides like this is a good answer, this is not a good answer, all that stuff, remarkably stable. Another one of my favorite phrases is Google protects the formula for how it decides what to rank the same way that like Coke protects its formulas, right? It's in a vault. You can't ever see it. No one can
Right.
see it. It's
Right.
their entire secret sauce. With ChatGPT and all these AI models, all of the algorithms that decide how that govern how they decide what content to pick are based on published papers. So if you just go and look at the papers, you can reverse engineer them, and then you can tell people, here's how you want to structure your site to have a higher chance of being included in the response. So that's where we focus, is on translating that research into action. We've modeled the ChatGPT citation pipeline. So that's where we differentiate ourselves, is in modeling the research that's out there so that you can have a predictable chance of being cited, not just kind of like snake oil or hoping.
Interesting. Very interesting. So I guess what I'm still missing with Spyglasses is you sound more like a consultancy than a piece of software. Like, to describe
Yes.
the differences between the two. Like, where's the software
Yes.
come into play?
Yeah, so we make a lot of our software available. Our primary client are marketing agencies, PR firms. They're the ones who actually do the work. We do have some consultancy that we can do, either visibility consulting, kind of high level, or writing content, but we are not an SEO shop that builds new material and things like that. Most of those are our clients. So
I
they
see.
license our software, they mark that up, and that becomes an entire AI visibility practice that they can run on top of us.
I see. So most like companies who want to be found are not going to you directly. They're working with a marketing agency,
Yeah,
and that's more of a service. So from their perspective, they're subscribing to a marketing agency service, and then your company is helping the marketing agency deliver a better service with you're delivering a software product to the marketing agency to help the
that's
service.
exactly right. Yeah. Yeah,
Ah,
that's
okay.
exactly right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Most of these firms already have agencies. This typically, like an engagement gets to us because the marketer in the company got an angry note from their CEO. The CEO said, I Googled, I entered our company name in ChatGPT and it was wrong. That's fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. That's your problem now. So the head of marketing for the company calls their agency and says, hey, our CEO just entered our company name in ChatGPT and it was wrong. Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. The agency calls me and says, hey, our client's CEO, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. And so we give you the data to show you how to fix it.
Interesting. And I like the way you framed it. They're translating the research into action. And
Yep.
that's super interesting. That, I mean, I've always known that the Google algorithm is a black box. That's well
Yep.
known.
Yep.
But I didn't realize that it's sort of the opposite of the AI side, because yeah, I just didn't realize that. And it's funny because the whole difference between deterministic and probabilistic is the probabilistic is like less certain, but in a sense the research is more certain. That's kind of an
Yes.
interesting
Yep.
flip
Yep.
the script a little bit.
All
That's
of
really
those
interesting.
papers are in a publication platform called Archive, spelled arxiv.org. They're all there. You have to know which ones map to which particular technique and things like that. And you have to be able to read a research paper on a pretty dry subject. But if you can do that, That's how you know these are the probabilities. You talked about like, does, you enter a prompt into ChatGPT and it either decides to search or doesn't. There is an actual factor, like a numeric score that it assigns to your prompt to decide whether it even needs to do a web search or not. That is a published paper in archive. So you just figure out like, okay, this has a 70% chance of triggering a web search, worthwhile.
And then, so what does your software provide to the marketing agency? So if there's a marketing agency listening for a company that's using a mid-market ERP product, or a marketing agency for a consultancy that does consulting in mid-market ERP, what does your software deliver to them?
Couple of things. So we run prompts that either we come up with and we come up with mutually that show which brands are mentioned for high intent, high purchase intent prompts and things like that. We show you how you're positioned. We show you all of the sources that were cited, so you know exactly what pages to optimize for, what third-party sites are driving those citations, where your competitors are cited and you're not, where you are in the data but it's not citing, all of that kind of stuff. And then, as I mentioned, we have a model of the ChatGPT retrieval pipeline that we've built ourselves. It's not perfect. We don't work there, but we've again gone back to the papers and said these are the same algorithms. So you can take a page on your site and you can say, I want to optimize for this fan out query, this thing, press a button, and it will go through and it will tell you problems. You can press a second button and it will suggest a rewrite, and you can just load that back into your site and it will sort of optimize for that citation engine. So those are among a number of things.
It's like a content editor for you.
In very specific ways. We are very, very cautious about AI slop. We don't want to just generate 1,000 articles for you. But in terms of taking something that you write and saying, how likely is this to be cited by AI? We'll score it, tell you the problems, and then we can turn around and give you suggestions, like a suggested full page that you can use as an improvement.
Yeah. So it's not an editor in the sense that you really want it writing for you, but at least it's a authoritative referee on whether your content's going to get cited. So you can at least take the suggestions, do your own writing to improve it, and then score it again and see if you go higher or lower.
Yeah. Okay. And we will suggest a rewrite, and we can kind of rescore it until we get kind of a local maximum. We're like, okay, it's not getting any better when we rewrite it, and we'll give you that version. But we don't. There's a lot of companies in our space that you just say like, give me, this is the keyword I want to rank for. Press a button, give me a whole article. What that does is it takes the top 10 ranks for that keyword and it just averages that content and it gives you the average.
That's the AI flop that you're talking about.
Yeah. We do outlines. So if you want a keyword, we'll give you an outline, like here's what you should write about. But at this point, we don't give you the raw stuff. Like that has to be your voice. Otherwise, we're just contributing to a giant problem.
Yeah, you want to help people stand out. You don't want to help people be the average of everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Very cool. Well, Jim, thanks for going over. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for all the helpful knowledge. Really, really appreciate it. Any other things that you wanted to mention?
Nothing huge. It's a fascinating space. I love this space because it changes every day, right? Every day is kind of a new puzzle to solve. And that's what keeps me excited about it and keeps me coming back. So if you like puzzles, this is going to be a great space to do because it's moving very, very quickly.
Yeah. And that's where, like, even the simple part about when you mentioned the ChatGPT user, I assume that your software like kind of does that part where I don't have to go run the network thing and all that. Is that part of it?
Yes. Yeah, that's true. You just put our open source plugin in, put an API key in, and we just pull all of the citations from all the models that we track.
And I guess I just bring up that example as like a simple example of who knows how many more of those types of things are
Yes.
going to be relevant in 2 months from now. And I don't want to have to keep up on it. So your product just kind of allows me to stay on the leading edge with whatever I need to be caring about related to AI search, because it's changing so fast, right?
Yeah, that analytics tool on our side is free. Get a free API key, drop our plugin in. We make our AI citation data live in public, part of our, content marketing from our side. So that page has our actual real-time sliceable AI traffic like that. It's exactly what we're getting. So if you want to see what it would look like on yours and what it look at what it looks like on ours. It shows last 7 days. You can change the filters, you can choose 30 days and things like that. We run a classifier over all the transactions to try and understand what the intent of them was. So was this just like an informational citation? Is this somebody who's doing like pricing research or product research? Is this someone looking for support, integration, help? So we classify all of the citations according to what we understand the intent. We can't see the prompt, but we can make some inferences based on the content that was cited, platform, and things like that. So you can get a little bit of
really
information.
Your secret sauce, I would think, especially because it's always evolving and it's not perfect, but it's that the kind of gut check that you come up with based on all the research that you're doing.
That's right. And then we'll forward that data over to Google Analytics, so it kind of fills in the missing pie in your analytics. So you get your human traffic and your AI traffic in one view.
And so all right, super simple one. I'm intrigued by the simple stuff. Like Google Analytics is a pain to work with for me. Like,
indeed. Yes.
Could I use your software instead of Google Analytics and then get other stuff in addition? Like, or do I still wind up logging into Google Analytics for something?
Yeah, we only track bot traffic. We don't log any human visits to your site. That's different. Google Analytics does that. I mean, when I find people who say Google Analytics, I'm like, yes, I also agree. If you're comfortable with a paid solution, Post-Hog is a great option. And Plausible is one of my favorites for privacy preserving. It is open source, so you could in theory host it for free, but that is a reasonably priced and dead simple, like no crazy charts tool. I've used both of them and I like both of them.
Awesome. Thank you for all the helpful info.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Well, I think that'll wrap it up. Again, thanks for going over, and nice to meet you. And thanks for taking the time off the back of a couple of LinkedIn comments. Really all it was. And yeah, thanks for the willingness.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, happy to.